forced labor and sexual slavery. A related phenomena of globalization is migration, also affected by many factors: economic exploitation, labor demand, poverty, we also have now excellent work from Gemma Kroes-Duluth, her work on analysis of migration from a feminist perspective, where she calls now migration has been feminized, and it calls for a point, a locus of theological consideration, theological articulation. So therefore, despite all its potential, globalization also has victimized women. Now, in this light, doing Asian women theology requires us to engage this phenomena, globalization, in a managed way, if I can use the phrase from Joseph Stiglitz, the Nobel Prize for Economics. So a managed globalization, can we think about cultural and community values that will aid in negotiating between the potential perils of exploitation and empowerment that globalization affords women. Peace building is my third. Regions in Asia have seen conflicts and continue to be ravaged by conflicts sourced in religious and ethnic caste hierarchy. There is a complex intersection of religion, ethnicity, caste, gender victimization, and conflicts manifested in varying forms, as evident in the statistic and media reports of rape, forced prostitution, and other gender-based sexual violence in conflict zones. In recognition of these vulnerability of women in conflicts and the need to involve women in peace building, the UN Security Council passed Resolution 1325 in the year 2000. The Security Council Resolution 1325 requires the inclusion and participation of women in processes of peace building, reconciliation. And this resolution of the Security Council is a crucial step towards sensitization of a gendered perspective and experience of conflicts. A theological articulation arising from Asia that is witnessing increased clash and conflicts need to reckon with women's role and participation in peace building in the continent. In the context of KwaZulu-Natal, you have an excellent work from Isabel Apavo-Pyrie, who identifies the Sakomas as indigenous women active in community peace making and reconciliation. And I want us to ask, can we identify local resources in Asia, such as cultural practices, religious role stories that will motivate women to be active agents for peace buildings? My last point, interreligious dialogue. As noted earlier, Asia is the cradle of almost all world religions. Now, the heritage of these is both accommodation and acrimony between these disparate religions. The repository of history provide ample experience of enriching interaction as well as enraging conflicts between the religions. Now, fortunately, scholars have been interested more on the accommodation. Thus, Asia has always been a heritage of, has been a context that provide resources for plurality and empirical context towards global discourse of interreligious dialogue. Yet, for long, interreligious dialogue has been a gendered conversation, where anthrocentric perspective, experience, and preference have dominated the discourse. The women question, women voice in religions and their interactions are beginning to be identified as the works of Ursula King and Maura O'Neill exemplifies. And a dialogue that is focused on religious sacred texts, interpretations, rituals, spirituality, and theology, forging convergences and identifying divergences between religions would be limited if the women question is ignored. For instance, religious fundamentalism and its vicious effect on women is not isolated, but a common phenomena among religions, not least the contemporary Asian religions. A theology from an Asian women perspective, interrogates the exclusion of women's voice, experience, and role in religions. Furthermore, an active theology of interreligious dialogue ensures that interreligious dialogues includes justice for women as the crucial focal point in common project for a global peace that dialogue between religions aspires to foster. Apart from these areas, there are many more areas that requires women equal participation and perspective, such as environmental degradation, theological education, writing local history. Now, surely at this point in time, there is much to celebrate of progress achieved, measured from a multidimensional lens of women. It cannot be denied that the organizational efforts, theological articulations, and passionate advocacy of earlier generation of men, women theologians have borne fruits. That women and their perspectives and experiences are not recognized and included is not the qualm, but the fact that recognition, acceptance, and equality are still limited, and patriarchal hierarchy continues to powerfully define the roles and participation of women in many communities in Asia, including churches. Women continue to form the vulnerable group, the marginalized by attitude, policies, and cultural practices derived from deep-rooted patriarchal substratum. Questions, critical inquiry, and interrogative posture is required to translate eloquent theologizing into lived realities. Writing in the context of predatory and exploitative globalization, Zygmunt Bauman asserts, questioning the ostensibly unquestionable premises of our life is arguably the most urgent services we owe our fellow humans and ourselves. Doing women theology from Asia perspective need bold and courageous interrogation of the sources, structures, and ways of life that remain rigidly oppressive and unreasonably exclusive to ensure an alternative, radically equal and healed community. Cultural practices in Asia have embedded in them the mechanism for collective conversation characterized by deliberation, questions, assertions, opinions, and interrogation. So practices such as Matang of Korea, Talakayan of the Tagalog of Philippines, and Zuki and Morong of the Naga of Indian, Panchayat of another group of Indian. These provides the space to initiate community conversation. And community conversation entails honest discussion, risky encounters, in the words of Conrad Reiser, and unsettling questions. Thank you.